Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Both Mike Washington and Charles Bishop are out on assignment. Can you believe it? With that being said, I'm actually shooting from Chicago. Yeah, that's Chicago, Illinois, the Windy City. Welcome to episode 575 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs, better known as HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. I'm filming on the road. I'm here at the NAS conference as we're getting things done, sitting here looking it all up. North American Society of Sociologists, trying to represent with HBCUs and providing that research is required for those on tenured or associate assistant, as well as full professors, just keeping my academic rigor up there. With that being said, let me join in my crew today, which is none other than Wilton Jackson II, A.D. Drew. I told you A.D. is always in the house. Wilton is on good terms. He's speeding up and adding multiple layers to his tenure here. Both of these professors moving from adjuncts, clinical professors on up the rank. Boy, it must be nice. Inside the HBC Sports Lab, checks must be good. Oh, that was
I'm quiet as a mouse.
That was a pretty good call. It's big enough. Well, see, okay, all right. We'll work on that. We need. Hey, y'all already.
Hey, Doc. Yeah. If we get some more sponsorships, there
you go.
Sponsorship is the name of the game.
I'm not ashamed. I'm like TLC, ain't too proud to beg.
I'm glad you not either. Today's episode of Inside the HBC Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency LLC. Speaking of sponsors, THG Agency is a company that provides sporting, educational, and consulting data analytics. With that being said, A.D. Drew, what's on your mind today? In terms, before you even get to the news, how interested are you in this MEAC matchups that's going to kick off in about 25 minutes?
I am interested in where I am going to try to keep my comments short so that we can get in and out of our segments on time so that we could be done at the top of the hour so that I don't miss too much of the game. I just hope this is not one of those games when you got opening kickoff return for a touchdown or opening drive and you come back and it's like 21 points by the time you turn the game on and you like, well, I missed all the action. It's 21 points combined and the game only had 24 points total, so you'd have missed all the action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. And we will give some updates, at least scoring updates as we go through the show. With that being said, if we had ESPNU here, I'd have it on in the background, sneak a little peek. Updates. We don't want no problems though with the YouTube algorithms. We know how that goes. So Wilton, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup? How big do you believe it is?
I think it's really big. I think this is the start. Obviously, we've been talking all the time on the show about the weekend of Halloween, how big it was going to be for the MEAC, and now it's here. We're going to get a good dose of who we think is going to be, or we after this game, in some cases for now, we will find out which one of these teams is truly the best team in the MEAC. I mean, all year North Carolina Central is still, not necessarily played perfect, but they've still maintained their spot. And each week we've talked about South Carolina State continue to grow, continue to grind and pretty much solidify their space under Coach Chinnisberry in his first year, and they've looked great. And so, what better way to have a spooky holiday with two great teams that are playing at their best? And it's just good to get that great matchup tonight.
I like that spooky holiday for those that do celebrate or acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween to those out there. Perfectly said by Wilton in terms of analyzing matchup. We'll go a little deeper, 15 minutes in the second segment right before the matchup to kind of get people really prepared and get you all started. I know you surrounded and I had some games, but now we'll take a little deeper and we'll look at that offense against defense where we talked about the strengths on strengths as well as defense and offense, vice versa. A lot of intrigue in terms of this matchup. But as we get into the rest of this first segment, I'm going to stick with you, Wilton, and tell me what's some of the news of the day that you are thinking of is on your mind before we get in this 1 versus 4 matchup.
So some of the news of the day, we have 2 former HBCU players that were selected to play in the NBA G League draft, or they were selected in the NBA G League draft from this came from HBCUsports.com. In preparation for the start of the NBA G League season, they held their 24th annual draft, seeing 2 former HBCU players hear their names called. One was Christian Brown with the 6th overall selection, former Tennessee State All-Conference forward, was picked up by the Sioux Falls Skyforce. Brown played 3 seasons at Tennessee State from 2021 to 2024, transferring to the team after playing 2 seasons at Georgia. He averaged 11.8 points on 49% shooting from the field and 37% shooting from three-point range. He also added 2.9 rebounds and 1.1 steals in 55 games. The Georgia transfer was named to the All-OVC second team in his final season. The second person is Olisa Akinobi. With the 17th pick in the second round of the G League draft, former Alabama A&M center was picked up by Rip City Remix, the G League affiliate for the Portland Trailblazers. He's this is the second year in a row that Akinobi has been taken in the G League draft, having been selected by the Grand Rapids Gold, which is the G League affiliate for the Denver Nuggets last year. His college career began at Morehouse, where he played 3 seasons from 2018 to 2021. He averaged 4.2 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 1.6 blocks in 58 games. He transferred to Alabama A&M in 2022 and was named the SWAC Defensive Player of the Year in his only season with the team. The Morehouse transfer compiled 7.8 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 1.8 blocks in 31 games in the SWAC.
Great information, Wilson. Shout out to players getting drafted. G League, you never know. You keep touching around the G Leagues, make some moves. You can get that NBA call-up. First, oftentimes it's 10-day assignments, and then those can turn into fully guaranteed contracts. So good to hear that. Good to see HBCU to find a way to take the next steps in their dreams and goals. With that being said, AD Drew, what's on your mind in terms of HBCU news today and this week?
Sidebar, I am so glad you took that story, Will, because I did not want to tackle their second name. All right. Getting back to the feature at hand. And I'm going off script with this one, Doc, but this is something that I sent to you the other day. Doug Williams, former head coach at Morehouse and Grambling State and longtime executive in the NFL, has been named to the American Football Coaches Association recipient of the 2024 Trailblazer Award. The award will be presented to Williams during the 2025 AFCA convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. The AFCA Trailblazer Award was created to honor leaders in football coaching profession who coached at historically Black colleges and universities. And I'm not going to go down the name, but pretty much whoever's a who's who of HBCU coaches have received this award in the past. So Williams rose to fame as a standout quarterback at Grambling State, played for the late, great Eddie Robinson. He threw for over 8,000 yards and 93 touchdowns, led the Tigers to 2 Southwestern Athletic Conference championships and 3 Black College National Championships. In his senior year of 1977, Williams finished 4th in the Heisman Trophy voting. A first-round pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 1978, Williams led the Buccaneers to the first 3 playoff appearances and left as the franchise all-time leader in touchdown passes, passing yards, and attempts. And of course, we know about his career. He had a career in the USFL, came back to the NFL, Super Bowl with the Redskins, coaching career. Originally started at Morehouse, 2 stints at Grambling, and now he's a member of the Washington Football Club's Ring of Fame, and is a member of the 80 Greatest Washington Players. So congratulations there to Doug Williams. And if you're in Charlotte in 2025, don't know the specific date, but go check him out receiving this award.
That's an awesome honor as you start to move in the mix and things of that nature. So you continue to see these updates. Spartans named HBCU FCS National Team of the Week from MEACsports.com. Norfolk State football has been named HBCU Plus FCS National Team of the Week by Stats Perform. The organization announced on Monday the Spartans got back into the win column with an emphatic fashion on Saturday, taking down defending MEAC champions Howard 21-20, as you know by now, in front of a sold-out crowd at William Dick Price Stadium. Homecoming for the Spartans over there in Norfolk. After trailing by as much as 10 in the first half, Norfolk State rallied from behind, pull out the homecoming victory. Kevon King, I should say, scored the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter before NSU's defense closed things out from their end. Redshirt junior Jalen White, who on Saturday became the first Norfolk State player since Marcus Taylor in 2017 to return a kickoff for a touchdown, also received the honorable mention nod of Special Teams Player of the Week category out of the MEAC. Shout out to Blow over there. He picking on Winston-Salem State, but his Spartans turned the curve and got a kickback, got a win over Howard. I'm sure he's excited about that a little bit. But with that being said, Wilton, anything else you want to add in terms of news of the day that's kind of on your mind?
So I was looking at this. Local university was placed on a fiscal watch and receiving assistance. This came from WDTN.com. The Ohio Department of Higher Education Chancellor Mike Duffy announced on Friday that Central State has been placed on fiscal watch after CSU leadership made the department aware of the university's financial challenges. Duffy says the declaration will allow the university to receive assistance to adapt and position itself as a stronger, more competitive institution. Several measures will be taken to stabilize and improve the outlook of the university, including increased financial reporting, Board of Trustee engagement, and evaluation by the state's auditor. The Auditor of State's office will provide consulting around the university's budgeting, financial accounting, and reporting procedures. The goal is for the university to come off fiscal watch within 3 years.
That's important that they're getting assistance. It's tough to read that they're going on it, but let's make sure we continue to shout out. I see Lennon is out there chastising Stephen Gaither in terms of he's looking for elimination platter. They're
not gonna let Steve make it.
No,
they are not.
But Steve kind of brought a little bit in on himself. He was giving out that tie, so you got
just a little bit.
Just a little bit. With that being said, let's take our first break. Come back on the other side. We'll get into this matchup. Number 1 versus number 4. North Carolina Central Eagles travel down to Orangeburg to play South Carolina State Bulldogs. I had a plane ticket. I was going to leave Chicago this morning. Would have got down there and drove on up an hour out of Charleston. Mm-hmm. Got so busy and then had a change of plans based on the fact they want me on the panel at the last minute.
Oh, man.
Good information to talk HBCUs. I couldn't turn it down. So I canceled my flight, canceled my hotel, and decided I'd just watch it on TV, make sure we had space to do the show. I was going to do the show out there from the press box, but not to be this time, but I'll certainly be tuning in like all of us shortly. That being said, let's take our first break, come back on the other side and talk more about this matchup.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
So this is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with AD Drew Wilton Jackson II, bringing you some updates and some news to make sure you get your HBCU feel for the day, particularly on a Thursday night showtime when you're the only show in town for HBCU sports. Guess who gets the light? It's number 1 North Carolina Central coming in with a record of 6-2, 2-0 in the MEAC in conference play. And they travel down to Orangeburg, South Carolina State, number 4 South Carolina State Bulldogs, 5-2, 1-0 in conference play. Man, a lot of people believe this is for all the marbles that these teams will find a way to get it done. And if you think about it, other than that loss, if you come after this, if you can find a way to win it out, you certainly trap it. Even though with one loss, you put yourself in pretty good position. It depends on who you lose to. So this game has great implications. With that being said, I'm going to start with you, Wilton. Talk a little bit about what you've seen North Carolina Central Eagles defense this year. What makes them so competitive, so dangerous? And last couple of years, we've thought more about their offensive side of the ball, but they certainly have been solid in terms of quietly what they do on the defensive side of the ball, particularly 2 years ago when they won a championship and beat Jackson State to get it done. Big plays were in there, but they came up with some crucial plays at times to help the team get it done. This year, what have you noticed about the North Carolina Central Eagles defense?
I think when you look at their defense, obviously it kind of embodies you think about a coach like Trey Oliver who's tough-minded and things of that nature. Like that's how I envision, or that's what I've seen from North Carolina Central's defense. When I say they're tough, doesn't necessarily mean they've been perfect on each possession in each game, because they've given up some big plays in different moments. But at the same time, I've also seen them, to your point of what you just mentioned, seen them make plays and make stops when they've needed to. When they've needed to stop the running game or stop opposing running backs, they've been able to do that. In terms of getting interceptions in the secondary, they've been able to do that. And so when you put those two together and you have a functioning offense, because here's the thing, you got to think, because their offense has been so good, their defense hasn't really had hadn't really had the need to be on the field so much, because the offense is constantly getting drives. I mean, you're talking about a North Carolina Central offense that's number 1 and number 2 in first downs per game. And I know they're in the top 3 or 4 in third down conversion percentage. So again, your defense is on the sideline getting rest for the next possession when they go back on the field. So of course they're going to have that energy to be able to get the opposing offense off of the field so that they can put their own offense back on the field. So I think you're just seeing a really aggressive North Carolina Central defense. And to be honest, this is what they'll need tonight. They'll need to get South Carolina State's offense. They're going to need to get Eric Phoenix off of the field so they can put the ball back in the hands of Walker Harris if they plan to win this game.
I like the points you make there. So, Eddie Drew, I'm going to get you to go with South Carolina State's offense. We're going to look at it like that, and then we'll flip it back and give you a chance to talk about Central's defense. But from your perspective, when you look at South Carolina State's offense, that's going to be going up against North Carolina Central defense that Wilton talked about. What are your thoughts in terms of what makes this South Carolina State Bulldogs offense really good?
Offense is averaging 24 points per game. They're averaging. I just lost my spot. They're averaging 5.8 yards per attempt on the ground, which is a huge chunk. 5.8 consistently do that. That puts you in a second down situation where your entire playbook is available to you. Yep. I could stay conservative and continue to run the ball, or I could take a shot down the field, and even if I don't get it, I'm still in third and manageable. I'm at third and four. Yep. So, which still allows me to open up the playbook, with the run game. What hurts teams is when they get into 3rd and 7s, third and 8s, and things like that. So the other thing, South Carolina State, they have a quarterback who can make plays. Eric Phoenix, and I have witnesses on the Division II level more than I have on the Division I level, but it doesn't matter. You recognize talent. There's sometimes when talent, no matter what level it is, you recognize talent. Eric Phoenix can make the play both with his arm, because he can spin the ball, and with his feet. And he knows when to come out there with the ball. Plus, he's got that one little distinct advantage that people tend to overlook. He's a southpaw.
Yep, he is young.
So that changes a little bit of the dynamics of the defense. Obviously, the ball comes out different. The offensive guys are used to it.
That's a huge one. I like the way you broke that down in terms of bringing that to the table.
Yeah,
when you start looking at those matchups like that.
Yeah, the defensive guys, it's a little bit different seeing the ball come from a lefty versus a righty. Same thing if you play baseball, you batter against a right-hander 90% of the time. So things are, which also one last thing, and I'll get off of this, that makes the right tackle the important person to protect the backside, where we traditionally see how strong is your left tackle. Which throws the defense off because your defensive line pretty much, you try to go against that weaker tackle, which is that right tackle. But in this case, the right tackle is going to be the strength because he has to protect the quarterback's backside. Just a couple of little things to look at.
Woo, great points made on both sides, but particularly when you look at it. But let me stick with you, Drew, since you gave that framework. Let's look at it now from the perspective where you talk about North Carolina Central's offense. What do you think from that perspective when you see their offense? How are you feeling about that from your perspective?
Look, you got Jamari Taylor in the backfield. It's plain and simple.
Yeah.
You got to find 4. And know where number 4 is. But you also have a couple of other serviceable backs back there in Mosley and Rogers who can tote the rock also and give Taylor a break. And then passing the ball, got Walker Harris back there. Yeah, I might think Eric Phoenix is a little bit of a better quarterback per se. But it's not like Walker Harris is a pump back there either. He can handle his business back there. He can spin the ball, and we've seen him. This is not the Walker Harris who came off the bench for the last 2 years. This is a Walker Harris who has taken this opportunity to start and has made strides with it and has tremendously led his team to the point where the team is averaging 36.5 points per game, Dr. Cavil. 36.5 points. Yeah, we know that's skewed because Virginia Lynchburg was one of those opponents that they played.
True.
But it's not skewed when you consider that North Carolina A&T was one of the opponents they played, and they scored just as much against A&T as they did against Lynchburg. Right. So, so just keep that in mind. And they've got a Division I in there also, and they still average 36.5 points per game. So, this is a high-powered offense. We know South Carolina State is known for its defense. They're gonna have to come strong and come correct if they're gonna stop this. If they're gonna stop this offense. If this game is a shootout, Dr. Cavil,
yeah,
Eagles.
Ooh, good comments. Great points. Great point. Well, then let's switch it around. Now it's time to talk a little about that Bulldog offense. You gave us some information about that. What are your thoughts in terms of South Carolina State and what they're going to bring offensively?
So I like everything Drew said, but the one space for me that he didn't mention that I think I've probably looked at a little bit more is that, and we talk about this all the time in football, games are won in the trenches. South Carolina State's offensive line has been strong for them in being able to allow Phoenix to do what he's been able to do in terms of sitting in the pocket, making passes, or to Drew's point, allowing Phoenix to get out along the edges and still scramble and make plays with his legs. But more than anything, that offensive line has allowed them to allow Phoenix to pass the ball. They've allowed those running backs to run the ball in DeAndre Duhart and KZ Adams. And when you look at the stats, like if you look at South Carolina State's rush offense, it'll say that they are at the bottom of the MEAC. It's only 6 teams though, but they're still averaging 135.4 yards per game. And I'm thinking to myself, that's at the bottom. And North Carolina Central sits at number 1 with 181.5. That's only about a 50 yards difference. So if I'm South Carolina State, if I'm having success running the ball tonight, that's a really, really, really good thing, considering the fact North Carolina Central is giving up almost 158 yards per game on the ground. So it's possible for them to still be able to run the ball. And honestly, if South Carolina, to me, this is just my thoughts. Yes. If South Carolina State is able to run the ball and Eric Phoenix is also able to have a good game, even if it is a shootout, I think South Carolina State wins this game. Somebody's not going to be able to run the ball consistently.
Ooh, I like that point. That's good. We'll talk a little bit about that defense, and then I'm going to come back to you to close it out in terms of your final thought. But, Wilton, give me a little bit about South Carolina State's defense.
So they have a linebacker. I remember talking to Coach Beard. I can't think of his name right off the top right now, but they have a linebacker that's pretty much the center of their defense. A lot of NFL scouts have been looking up to him or looking at him and watching his play. This is when I was talking to Coach Beard. This was before even the season started. But their defense is aggressive as well. They always make up timely plays. They're also good in particular in like getting teams off of the field on third downs. So that's something to think about. Again, when you're going up against another dynamic offense, with to Drew's point when he talked about Walker Harris, like Walker Harris is no scrub by no means. And so being able to get them off the field on third downs is going to be very important for South Carolina State to continue to thrive and potentially win this game.
Good stuff. AD Drew, what final piece did you want to add in there? And I wonder if anything that has to do with special teams as well. You can give some thoughts on that.
Well, I wasn't going to touch on special teams, but I was going to go back to Wilton's point as far as South Carolina State being last in the BAC in rushing at 135 yards per game. Let's translate this to the SWAC. That's 6th in the SWAC.
Yep.
Wow. In rushing.
Yep.
Last place team in the BAC is the median in the SWAC.
Yep.
Interesting.
One other thing, you talk about Phoenix, you talk about that offensive line. The one thing you have to keep in mind when Eric Phoenix gets off schedule, something that he does that I love, and I think he does a little bit better than Walker Harris. Eric Phoenix keeps his eyes downfield. He's not scrambling to pick up yards, although he can.
Right.
Because he will stop short of that line and chuck it to that open receiver down there. So those D-backs, when Phoenix gets off schedule, it gets out of the pocket, they still have to cover their man until he breaks their line of scrimmage. Then they can come and make that tackle, which allows Phoenix to get an extra 2-3 yards when he gets off schedule. So that's just something else to keep an eye on with when you talk about this quarterback comparison.
Good stuff. We're right up against it. The game is about to kick off. With that, let me get your final thoughts, Wilton, in terms of special teams. Which direction you going in special teams? Are you leaning one over the other, or you think it's equal?
I think it's pretty equal in terms of special teams. I think that unless this game comes down to a shootout and it comes down to a field goal, like I said, I haven't looked enough in terms of which field goal kicker is the best. I know AD Drew might have a better knowledge of that, but I think that this game is going to come down to more than anything who's going to be able to stop somebody's run on a key drive. I feel like it's going to come down to somebody getting a stop on defense to win this game or scoring a touchdown. But I really feel like it's going to be on defense.
Good stuff. And this game is flexed to ESPN2. With that, we'll take our next break. We'll come back on the other side, talk a little bit more about some of the other HBCU games. And we certainly will keep you updated in terms of what's taking place in the MEAC between number 1 is on the road, the number 1 North Carolina Central Eagles at number 4, the South Carolina State Bulldogs in Orangeburg, South Carolina. That's Dr. Will's Inside the HBCU Sports poll rankings. We'll be right back after this second break.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Lavert Experience and Sunshine Anderson. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app that brings Eatonville's legacy to life from your phone. Enjoy family-friendly STEM activities and explore over 80 unique vendors. Please don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets or to become a vendor. We'll see you in Eatonville, the oldest Black incorporated municipality in the country.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Will's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We focused quite a bit on Tuesday on the mid-major games of the week, but let's get a little more into some of these major games of the week. You have one that features the number 5 Hampton Pirates that are taking on Villanova. Pirates coming in overall at 5-3, 2-2 in conference play. They take on Villanova Wildcats that are 6-2, 3-1. Pretty tough matchup, but the Hampton Pirates been playing some pretty good football. Certainly at home, they play even better, and they have the Wildcats on their home turf. So I'm interested in your thoughts. Is this a game that you think Hampton can find a way to pull out? And if so, what do they have to do? Let me start with you first, Wilton, in terms of your thoughts in regards to the Hampton Pirates as they take on those pesky Wildcats of Villanova.
So when I look at this game, obviously the game is played on the field. I won't necessarily put it past them that they will get the win. I'm not sure if they will get this win. But I will say this, though. If they're able to get this win, I think it looks good on their schedule of teams that they would have wins against. Because Hampton has came out and, even in games where I thought that I probably put them at a loss, they found a way to win those games. So with it, with this being another big game against Villanova, like you said, pesky was a great word to describe Villanova. And I think that if they are able to get a win against Villanova, I think this will be huge for them.
AD Drew, I want to get your thoughts on this matchup as well. Wildcats, Pirates, this Colonial Athletic Association. I know they changed their name to the Coastal Athletic CIAA, CAA, I should say. Pirates are playing really well. Can they be the first team, in terms of the woes that the Aggies had, that can kind of start to find a way to get some momentum in the CAA? Is this the game that allows the Pirates to say, hey, we have arrived and we figured out this a bit, or are they going to continue to have to kind of wait and struggle a little bit?
I think Hampton's going down the right path. Hampton needs to let this be a ball game in the fourth quarter. But even that concerns me because there are 2 games this season that Hampton has not been able to close out. Hampton realistically could be the 5-3 right now. They could realistically be 7-1 if they would have closed out those other 2 games. So
great point.
We see the potential, but your record is what your record is. Yep. So Hampton, can you close this game out if in the fourth quarter you are within 1 score? That's what we need to be looking out for in this particular ball game.
AD, I like the fact that you mentioned, like, for those that may not know, the teams that they lost to: Morgan State 28-30. They lost to Rhode Island in double overtime. Those are
2 games that they could not close out.
Exactly.
That puts them at 7-1, and a 7-1 Hampton. We are seriously having a debate on whether an outside a team from the Independents could be declared national champion.
Yeah.
But since your record is what your record is, we can put that debate on the shelf for right now.
Right.
Well, there might be another team out there. Since you talk about that, I'm gonna skip to this game since you brought up that debate question. Let's look at currently number 3, which is Tennessee State Tigers. They sit at 6-2, 3-1. They've won most of the games you thought they should have won. They did take on, a highly ranked, number 1 ranked now after a big win over South Carolina State, and that was North Dakota State team. But this is a conference matchup. So it's against UT Martin Skyhawks that are 5-3, 3-1. They have to go on the road and take on Tennessee State Tigers that are ready to roar. Can they continue to roar and make another statement in OVC that they're going to be in it to the end, particularly, finding a way? I know it's a game by game, but now if they can get this, they all of a sudden make these next matchups leading up to that SEMO game for the OVC championship. And then maybe to say a bit about, hey, what about us being, this national black college champion if we can get it done? I personally think they have to go a ways in the playoff to make that happen, even if they went out from that perspective. But I think they start to make the question intriguing. With that being said, sticking with you, AD Drew, what are your thoughts? Since you kind of teased it out with Hampton, what are your thoughts about Tennessee State in this matchup and finding a way, as you like to talk about it, maybe causing a little chaos based on that Celebration Bowl?
Well, obviously, this is the best Tennessee State team that Eddie George has coached since he has been there. This is the best Tennessee State team that Sneaker Shop has seen in a long time there in Nashville.
He reminds us all the time.
Too bad Brandon King and his family are the only people that go out and watch this team.
You ain't right.
Am I wrong though? I ain't right, but am I wrong?
You're not.
You're not wrong. That's why we laugh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, they're not playing. They're not playing the sexy matchups against the Jackson States and the other members of the SWAC that HBCU fans want to see. But against the competition that they're playing, they're handling their business in 2024. The thing that scares me about this team, Dr. Cavil, Tennessee State is averaging 25.5 points per game, but they're giving up 23 points per game. That's a field goal, Dr. Cavil. What does that mean? There's no margin for error when you're talking about Tennessee State. Tennessee State has to continue to play essentially perfect ball. Can they continue to play perfect ball? Now, betting people, they always start to give you a field goal at home. What did I say they're winning their average games by? 3 points per game. Home field advantage, I think they get it done by those 3 points that they're averaging and that the odds makers are going to give them at home.
Good stuff. Let me give you an update. It looks like in terms of a big play, South Carolina State is able to strike first with a big one. 48-yard pass play.
Jalen Smith-Brown.
Yep. Jalen Smith-Brown, as you talked about, is able to get the Bulldogs to the North Carolina Central 11. Started out South Carolina State on their 1st and 10 on a 13-yard, 2-yard play. No big deal. Then they got another yard, and then they come up with that big pass play for 48 yards. So now the 1st and 10 at North Carolina Central 11. Interesting to see as this continues to move out to see if they can make that big play count. Well, can the Eagles hold them to a field goal, or will the Bulldogs find a way to get into the end zone? With that being said,
Blow is on a roll in that chat. I'm sorry.
Oh my God!
I don't think he's worried about any of this. He's trying to find Stephen Gaither. Gaither put a fork in Norfolk State. He's like,
oh my gosh!
Hey, take that over to HBCU game day. Take that over to game day, man.
For real. With that being said, let's go to see if we can get a couple of other top 10 matchups as we give you updates in terms of what's taking place in that South Carolina State, North Carolina Central game. In terms of that, that's pretty much all your big matchups. We do have one in Mobile, Jackson State Tigers 6-2, 4-4. Sorry, that is in Memorial Stadium, Jackson State. That's Arkansas Pine Bluff homecoming game. Yep. Pine Bluff is looking a little better, but it isn't enough. They've been able to play Jackson State tough over the years, but this seems like to be a little different Jackson State team. But the Pine Bluffs are different as well. But they come in at 3-5. That is a Louisville record, but they're 2-2 in conference play. They're at number 2, Jackson State, the Tigers, 6-2, 4-0, controlling the Eastern Division and controlling the SWAC. For that, high ranked at number 2. They get a chance to play in a conference matchup. AD Drew, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup between the Golden Lions and the Tigers of Jackson State?
If the Golden Lions can find some offense, that same offense they found against, I believe, what was it, Alabama A&M about 3-4 weeks ago?
Yes.
They would have a chance. It's tough for me to picture UAPB going into the vet and being able to pull off this upset. If this was in Arkansas, I would give them a puncher's chance. I can't realistically see this in the vet, though, Dr. Cavil. But, the game shall be played. Anytime you step out there on the gridiron, you never know.
That's right. Exactly right. Let me go to you, William. What are your thoughts in terms of this matchup? I know you got a little eagle eye on what's going on there. Are you going to be able to make it to Jackson this weekend?
I will be.
Or are you going to have to watch it as it's broadcast?
Oh no, I will be in Jackson for that game. I actually got an assignment that's connected to that game. But when I
don't get much better than that.
Exactly. But when I look at this game, I don't see Jackson State losing this game. Number one, number two. But I will say this, and I said this last week when Jackson State was going up against Bethune-Cookman. It's easy for teams to get complacent when they're going up against a lower opponent in the conference. Obviously, you saw Jackson State kind of struggle a little bit early on, and a lot of that was due to the fact that they were expecting a different quarterback to play at Bethune-Cookman as opposed to Sprague. So if I'm Jackson State, for sure, obviously, with Arkansas Pine Bluff, you're going to be dealing with Mekhi Higgins. You have to make sure that although your offense is pretty much going to be functional and it's going to go as planned, based off the stats, because you're talking about a UAPB defense that's 11th in opponents' first downs, they're last in opponent's third downs percentage, and they're 7th in red zone defense. So I don't see Jackson State having a problem scoring and functioning well on offense. But again, I have seen Jackson State at times struggle to deal with quarterbacks that can be consistent at times. So if this is a Mekhi Higgins who we saw have moments where he's consistent with one of his wide receivers, i.e. that Prairie View game and one of the other games that AD Drew was just mentioning, exactly the A&M game. You don't want to let him get comfortable in their pocket and or continue to extend plays with his legs as well. So I think that Jackson State, to win this game, they need to come out fast, play strong, and play for 4 quarters. I mean, it's just as simple as that. And as far as Arkansas Pine Bluff, you can only hope that either the guys from Jackson State are hungover from homecoming because it's their homecoming. The running game is just not good, or something is just off. I mean, but again, this is also a Jackson State team that lost homecoming last year. So, I can assure you, Coach Taylor and those players know that, and they're going to probably come out with a strong energy to get this win against Arkansas Pine.
Before we take our next break, let me set this up. Big play. It was 2nd and goal at the 2-yard line. The Bulldogs ran off tackle to the left. They got stopped as it was actually on the 1. They got stopped at the 2. They had a 3rd and goal at the 2.
Yep.
They ran off the guard this time big play by North Carolina Central to stop them right at the goal line. So before we go through this break, we'll see what Chennisberry, the Bulldogs, decide to do. It looks like they're lining up to go for it. Nope, they go ahead and bring out the field goal. It is early in the game. It makes sense. They're at home, and they're playing some traditional ball here. They go for the field goal. And did they slide it in? Yes, it just slid in. From this angle on the TV, it looked like it might have slid outside, but obviously they're there on the field looking up at the goalpost, and it sneaks in. But I'd have to say, after a big pass play, South Carolina State strikes first. They get on the board. But a bit of a statement by the North Carolina Central Eagles that stopped them in terms of first and goal as the Bulldogs tried to flex their muscle. And you talk a little bit about this, Wilson, on the goal line. Yep. And you had the Eagles flexing their muscle to get 2 goal line steps. So that was interesting. So we'll take our last break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll talk a couple about these major games that are not ranked, particularly going a little inside the SWAC, some games that have a lot on the line. We see some of these key matchups. We'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like after this break.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft. Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more. But it's so absorbent, you can use less. So it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less? You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app. As we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. As we get back to it, they're kicking off after that score. South Carolina State Bulldogs with 8:47 left in the first quarter. They're able to get on the board with the field goal. But this is after they got really close. But no, North Carolina Central made some big plays. With that being said, there is one more top 7 team that I want to look at. It happens to be the number 7 Alabama State Hornets that take on the Alcorn State Braves. The Hornets come in at 4-3, 3-1 after a big win, huge win against the rival in the Magic City Classic, where they had 69,000 fans in attendance that watched that matchup. They take on the Braves, which are 4-4 and 3-1. This is an intra divisional matchup between Alabama State Hornets out of the Eastern Division versus the Alcorn State Braves in the Eastern Division. Before conference expansion, this was the Eastern Division matchup. No longer is that, as the Braves switched over and they moved into the Western Division. Since then, they hadn't been able to really get it done, but this is another chance for them to hold on things and make a statement by both teams that sit 3-1, and they're chasing the team at the top. But this is a chance to remain in the race in a lot of ways, solidly in the race. And so it's in Mobile. I think that brings the intrigue to this matchup. With that being said, 8D Drew, what are your thoughts in terms of this Hornets versus the Braves?
Alcorn State 6-4 in the last 10 matchups that these two teams have played. First time these two teams have played at a neutral site in recent memory. I've gone back. I know it hasn't been in the 20s since they have played at a neutral site. Here's an interesting stat. Alabama State is 6-0 in their last 6 neutral site classics. 3-0 in the Magic City Classic.
Big catch, man. Good one.
They won the SWAC Challenge 2 years ago.
Right.
They won the Orange Blossom Classic this year, and they won the Port City Classic 2 years ago against Grambling State. So that dates back to 2022 when that streak started. Last time they lost was in a neutral site classic, was to Alabama A&M in the Magic City Classic. So, you know, Alabama State, top defense. Any defensive statistic that you look at on the SWAC page, Alabama State is up there. Exactly. Any offensive statistic that you look at on the SWAC page, so Alabama State is not up there. So, you know, despite, you know, they say your record is what your record is. We both know where both these teams should be. And I voted in the poll, Dr. Cavil, but I am really considering the deck of cards that Alabama State is playing with. I really am thinking that my fellow pollsters got these two teams flip-flopped when they turned in their vote, and they checked the wrong ASU box. They should have been checking Alcorn State University first, and not Alabama State University when they were making their ratings, because everything on paper favors Alcorn, except for the fact Alabama State knows how to win when nobody has a home field.
Good stuff.
So I'm going Alcorn in this particular matchup, though. I think Alcorn has a little bit more, just because Alcorn can score, Alabama State can't.
Good stuff. Update here on North Carolina's first series. They go 3-and-out. Bulldogs make some plays to stop them. Crucial hit on third down that would have essentially gave Central first down. Good tackle to the tight end that jarred the ball loose, incomplete. Such they punt, and now the South Carolina State will start with their second time with the ball on their own 10. Same question to you, Wilton. What are your thoughts in terms of this matchup between number 7 Alabama State Hornets versus Alcorn State Braves?
I know this is an interdivisional matchup, but it's very important. 1, 2.
You right.
I know Alabama State lost this game last year in overtime, but I think this game comes down to how consistent. I mean, because this is what we know.
Yes,
Alabama State is going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball with Jamar Holtzclaw and Daquan Kent. We know that. But the X factor in this game is how consistent can Kareem Key be against Alcorn's defense. Now, you're talking about the Alcorn defense. They're tied for second with who else? Alabama State in interceptions. They force fumbles a lot. They're number 1 in that category. But here's an interesting nugget too with Alcorn. They're 8th in third down percentage as far as like teams getting third downs. So I'm wondering if Key can make at least almost be a game manager in some cases, make just enough passes so that it will allow for Alabama State to run the ball consistently. I mean, because Alcorn, so I'm looking at the numbers. Alcorn right now, 6th in total defense, 8th in rush defense, 4th against the pass. So it kind of dissuades Key to not pass the ball per se, but obviously they can't just run the ball every single time because, I mean, essentially, if that's the case, we'll get what we saw against FAMU, and that's why they struggled. But I think that if Key can be consistent and the running game is as strong as it's ever been, I think Alabama State could win this game. And I'm going to go with Alabama State and winning this game. In a neutral site. Also, to another point that AD mentioned, they're 6-0 in neutral site games. And my last point, I thought it was my last. This situation, too, when I think about Alcorn, we know that Xavier Vaughn, he can pass the ball, but he wants to run first. And if you think about Xavier Langford at Alabama A&M, with the stats that they had, because this was an A&M team that came into their game last week, the Magic City Classic, like literally number one in most of the offensive statistical categories. Well, we see they didn't win that game either. And the amount of points they were averaging coming into that game was cut by half. So if Alabama State's defense can get to Xavier Vaughn and slowing them down, Alabama State wins this game.
Can I retort that quickly?
Yes.
If Alcorn State follows the script and runs the ball their doggone self, Alcorn State wins this game because you're talking about two of the top rushing teams rushing the ball.
Right.
Why did Alcorn State lose to Southern? They went off script and decided to make Xavier Vaughn try to be Peyton Manning out there.
That's true.
That is not what he does.
But here's
He's
the thing:
manager who can run the ball, make a few plays. If he's throwing the ball more than 15 yards down the field, and you're Alcorn State, you in trouble.
Yeah. But here's the thing: do we know if Alcorn is going to be able to run the ball like that against Alabama State's defense? Now, if this was anybody else in the SWAC per se, I would say, okay, yeah, they'll be able to run the ball. But Alabama State's defense, you gonna take that gamble?
It's to me, it's not about the yards, Wilton. It's about the attempts in this particular game for both teams.
Okay.
For both teams, it's about the attempts because both these teams need to shorten the game and control the clock in order to win. Because both of them have good defense, but I don't care how good your defense. What does your defense need? They need rest on the sideline.
They do.
It's about the attempts more than the yardage. Attempts equals TOP. That's time of possession. Not
Absolutely.
About it.
For sure.
So,
man, I like that. Great analysis. I think you have to follow up. Y'all went into it. Let me give you another one that's in the top six. This one features a red hot Texas Southern team that a lot of folks forgot about. They're just outside of the top 10. Essentially, they'd be 11 if you wanted to give that ranking to them. But they take on FAMU. It's ranked number 6. It's Tallahassee. I will have the opportunity to go this game. I'm going to leave out of Chicago, and I'm going to head to Tallahassee. I'll get back to Houston. I charter with the team, and I'll get into Tallahassee tomorrow afternoon. I look forward to seeing this matchup against FAMU Rallies that come in at 4-3 and 2-1 against this red-hot Texas Southern team that is 2-2. But you think about how close they are to be 3-1 in terms of the game that most people thought they should have beaten Southern. Obviously, that was not to be, and it is what it is. But with that being said, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup? I'm going to stick with you, Wilton, and then allow AD to give his thoughts in terms of this matchup.
So with Texas Southern, the last game that I was physically at watching them, you and I, Dr. Cavil, we were there together when they played Jackson State. Yes. And Jackson State obviously ultimately ended up making that game, a blowout after it was close at one point. But the biggest thing that Texas Southern was missing, obviously, was the quarterback. And, now they've gotten back to Jace Wilson as quarterback. So it's like I'm interested to see in a pivotal matchup for Texas Southern if they're able to make this a game and or win this game, that would really, although again another intra-divisional matchup, I think it would give them a bigger boost and put more eyes on them, as opposed to like some people may have forgot about Texas Southern from when they first got that win against Prairie View in the beginning of the season. Because after that first win, we were like, oh, Texas Southern is back. Texas Southern is this. They're going to do this. And then, of course, the disappointing, last second loss to Southern. I think it starts with if Jace Wilson can be consistent for Texas Southern. I think that Texas Southern on defense, obviously, you're going to have to deal with Daniel Richardson and not allowing him to be mobile in most cases to extend plays. But I'm going to be honest with you, Dr. Cavil, and you, Eddie Drew, and I know he has a connection to FAMU. It's hard winning at Bragg Memorial Stadium.
Right.
And it's just like, and Coach Dishman is a great coach, great coach in his first year at Texas Southern. But I just don't see Texas Southern being able to go down to Bragg and get that win against FAMU. I just don't, especially with FAMU coming off a loss to Jackson State. You're talking about a FAMU team that's still trying to be in contention and hoping and praying that Jackson State loses one of these next couple of games coming up to still potentially book their ticket to the SWAC championship game.
Before I go to you, let me set this up. 3rd and 5 for the Bulldogs as they had picked up the first down. But it was just inside. It looked like potentially naked eye. It was a pretty good play by the cornerback coming on the defensive back, but his flag was thrown, so the drive will continue for South Carolina State as they get the penalty on it. Coach on the sideline was saying that the ball was overthrown. There was a little bit of holding there, so they called a penalty. So South Carolina gets the continuous drive. Those little things, hidden yards, hidden plays, penalties are huge in a matchup. With that being said, let me go to A.D. Drew to talk about his thoughts again on Texas Southern going to play Florida A&M Rapids. Homecoming.
Dr. Cavil, since FAMU and Bethune-Cookman have joined the SWAC, has Texas Southern made their trip to Tallahassee?
No, I believe this is the first one because the last 2 rounds it was Prairie View that made it last year, and this year FAMU is coming to Prairie View. So last year FAMU went to Texas Southern, and you're absolutely right. First time going up there. I have seen the Tigers play FAMU in Tallahassee. That was many years ago when it was a SWAC me-up type matchup where you actually had the Storm, which I was involved. I went to that game and rolled the bus back with the team after you had all the craziness about the hurricane coming in, which ended up being one of the ugliest ones in Houston history. And I remember coming back and we couldn't get home. Granger and I, we literally were in the office as they were flooding the streets as we came back and made it to Houston, but was stuck there for 2 days before we got home. Wild story. I'll never forget it.
And there's a reason why I asked that question, Dr. Cavil.
Yes.
You know,
great question.
Obviously, everybody knows I'm at Morehouse now, and they told me last week for homecoming, you will experience something that you have never experienced before. And they were correct.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Cavil, I am telling all of those Texas Southern Tigers that when they descend upon the highest of 7 hills this Saturday for homecoming, you will experience something you have never experienced before. This will not be the game that the street is. Not on homecoming. Not with 25,000 fans inside,
right?
And just as many fans outside.
Yeah.
And if that don't get you, Dr. Cavil, the food off of Perry Street will get you going, because get there early. One thing, Dr. Cavil, the only question that I have in this game, will FAMU finally score a rushing touchdown, as they have not scored one this year, and Texas Southern has given up 13.
You're right. Great point.
This might be the game that they get that streak, that they can break that streak.
Can that be the homecoming present?
I hope not, but I think it's a great point. You're right. This will be the type of game they will. With that being said, I'll be there. I'm interested. Another game that doesn't feature, teams ranked in the top 7 You do have a team right out of that with Southern that's in the mix when you talk about ranking of Southern, basically at number 8. They have a huge matchup in terms of what they get done when they take on Alabama A&M. Southern had that tough loss, first loss conference-wise against FAMU. Talking about traveling to Tallahassee, Southern Jaguars just did it, and they understood that lesson too. That the Rattlers just don't seem to lose, no matter what conference they in, no matter it's non-conference, conference game, whatever. They just don't like to lose and brag, and they had a snake bite and biting folks in their brag getting it done. But again, it's interesting when Southern now has to travel to Huntsville, Alabama, taking about Alabama A&M Bulldogs. Both of these teams coming off losses, with A&M Bulldogs losing in the Magic City Classic. So one of these teams gets a chance to rebound. Who can put their last loss out of their misery in terms of my thoughts on this? And we're going to close after this one, as we will be ending the first quarter, and I'm kind of allowing that to play out before we close out the show. But I thought this was an important game in terms of a key matchup, and wanted to get your thoughts on that. So I'm going to go to you, AD Drew, get your thoughts first, and then come to you, Wilton, in terms of this Southern on the road. The Jaguars take on the Bulldogs.
Question is Alabama State going to mail it in for the rest of the season? They're pretty much out of contention in the East, looking up at Jackson State, Florida A&M, and Alabama State. So are they going to mail it in? If they mail it in, obviously advantage Southern, because Southern still, even with the loss, they still control the West right now, as of today, because they have the wins against Alcorn and Grambling. Will that pressure of still being in control of the West catch up with Southern, especially on the road? That's what you're going to have to look at. This game is not going to come down to X's and O's. It's going to come down to execution up here, this particular matchup. Who's going to have the mental fortitude to handle this game as South Carolina State goes up 10-0?
Yep, going to give you an update. An 8-yard touchdown pass is what gave the Bulldogs a second touchdown. That key play was the penalty, but they've been able to run pretty consistently, mixing in some nice pass plays to get it done. You all talked about this matchup, and it's coming to fruit. And it looks like the Bulldogs are being a little more effective on their offensive line, being able to control it, particularly with their ability to run. We'll see on this next drive, can the Eagles find a way to get back in it? But they're down early, down 10-0, as you said, with 1:40 left in the first quarter. I'm going to get your thoughts on this, Wilton, and then we'll basically call it a show in terms of this match.
Well, I'm gonna keep it simple. And to AD's point, I definitely agree that it goes beyond X's and O's. But I think when you talk about it being up here, I agree with that. But even more, just to add to that, Connor Maynard is coming off of a loss in the Magic City Classic
for the third time.
For the third
time.
Exactly. So with that, being that this game is in Huntsville, with all the noise about, hey, he might be out after this season, he might be trying to, whatever schemes he got to get up here or get it together, he'll want to do that for this game, to win this game. I don't know what it's going to necessarily look like all the way. But again, if you're Alabama A&M and you're talking about Southern, you're going to have to be able to stop the run. Kendrick Rhymes, Kobe Dillon, whichever, the quarterbacks, Noah Biden, T-Set. But more than anything with Southern, it's about stopping the run. That's what you're going to have to do.
Is this a resume game for Connor Maynard, Will?
It is. It is. I feel like the noise only gets louder if he loses this game.
I thought it was interesting during the press conference on Monday. I go back and listen to him because of my dean role being on the road. I hadn't been able to be on the call, but you all have been representing well, getting on the call, particular Charles Bishop handling it and getting it done. And then we have Snicker Top getting it done in terms of Brandon representing for Brandon King doing some plays. So I'm very interested in that in terms of what that looks like in terms of the call. But he talked about the fact that while many people don't see it, if he is able to win out, he'd go 8-3. Just for the dialogue talk here, if somehow he can win out and go 8-3, not that we believe it, or even 7-4, loses one out of those last couple of games. Do you think he still is relieved of his duty? Because obviously he wouldn't necessarily be fired. This is last year of contract, so he has to get a contract extension.
Right.
Start with you, Wilton, to get your thoughts on it. If he goes 8-3, 7-4, does he keep his job?
Well, let's take a look at who they have left on the schedule. Southern on Saturday, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Let's say they get a win there. Grambling on a short week. After that, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Personally, right now, I might get that is at home.
Okay.
It's at home. So that's a possibility they can get that win at home. But then your last two games, you got at Mississippi Valley at the end of the season. And one thing about Valley that you know in previous years, maybe not necessarily last year, but in previous years, for whatever reason, they always find a way to shake up stuff for certain teams.
They're good for getting a win late at home.
Exactly. And just to remember, they still have to play FAMU for that game from the Hurricane. That's the final game of the season, and that's at FAMU.
And what's going to be interesting about that game, Will, if that game draws 4,000 people, I would be pleasantly surprised, especially if Jackson State has sewn up the East.
Yeah.
Now, if Jackson State drops a game and that game becomes significant for Florida A&M, yeah, you might get 10,000 there. But I've lived in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Tallahassee is a ghost town. That particular week, it ain't happening. Especially if Florida State and Florida are in Gainesville that particular week, because that's also the weekend that Florida State plays Florida. Even if they are at home, what do you think a lot of people are gonna be focusing their attention to? Seminoles versus Gators. But getting back to the question that you asked, Dr. Cavil.
Hold on, let me give you an update for those that are just watching us and not having the other game on. North Carolina Central cannot really run the ball. They ran on first down, just gained 1 yard. They came back and had 2 incomplete passes. A ball was blocked, but it went forward. It was touched by a South Carolina State player, recovered by North Carolina Central. They did a huddle on the play, and they had ruled that it was a fumble because it was touched by South Carolina State. Central picked it up. So Central looks like they might get a huge break, and it'll be first down, gaining about 15 yards after the block and recovering if it's called a fumble by South Carolina State, as the guy clearly touches the ball as he tries to recover it, and Central bats it forward a little bit. Central recovers it. Now it's under the review. This is under 46 seconds left. So now give me your final comments as we wait for the review, and then we'll call it a show.
Yeah, that's if you remember, that's what they reviewed for the Southern Tennessee State game. And the big key with that one is he recovers the ball beyond the first down marker. So this should be North Carolina Central's ball before we come out to review. Getting back, everybody seems to forget Connell Maynard is one of the few coaches around who has 100 career victories.
Yep.
Correct.
Connell Maynard has been a head coach since 2014 at 3 institutions without a gap.
Longest tenured coach in the SWAC right now.
Longest tenured coach, period, if you consider all of his stops consecutive.
Yeah.
Right now, current. If Connell Maynard does not get a contract extension, he is going to wind up somewhere next year. And I think he's back east in Tobacco Road somewhere next year. If he's not in Huntsville. I'm just throwing it out.
As you said, Andrew, your experience in calling games and getting that information, a call was confirmed and is North Carolina Central ball with 43 seconds left in the first quarter. They try to pass deep right and still don't have time. Looks like the guy 88, Jay Davis, catches the ball, but he has a foot that is out of bounds as he was trying to stay in bounds as Walker's continue to be under pressure and retreating in the pocket. 2nd and 10 with 40 seconds. It's amazing that they continue to pass the ball.
So
Go ahead. Give me your final.
No, I was just gonna say, but to your point, because I know I didn't say this. I don't know if they finish 8-3, but I would give them. There's a potential for 7-4, maybe 6-5.
They'll finish above 500.
Yeah,
I think their ceiling is 7.
Yeah,
realistic. Their ceiling is 7.
So, AD Drew, do you think he? I know you said you see him coaching somewhere else. Even if he's 7-4 or 8-3, you think he doesn't get the contract?
I think because there's too much noise in Huntsville around him, I think it'd be best for both him and the program that they part ways. I love Connell Maynard as a coach. I love him as a soundbite. You know, the press conference with Connell Maynard. That's the funnest 10, 15 minutes of Monday morning that you have on these press conferences until Mickey Joseph decides he wants to take it over. But anyway, that's another story right there. But, you know, just looking at the optics of it, I just think that it is for both parties. It's going to be a time because you got to think about it. Dr. Paul Bryant inherited Connell Maynard. So what do athletic directors like to do? They like to bring in their own people down to the field. So he's brought in his own basketball coach on the men's side. He's brought in his basketball coach on the women's side, and he's brought in his own softball coach. I know he's brought those 3 in since he has been there at Alabama A&M. So continuing with that pattern, this would be the next one. And I do got one other comment I want to get as you close out, but you can go ahead and respond on that.
No, go ahead and get your comment as you close out.
I just want to send a shout out to Joshua Jackson, former sports information director at Edward Waters, who just became the assistant athletic director for marketing and communications at Savannah State University, and another one of those jobs that was out there. Congratulations to Josh. I actually talked to him yesterday, and kind of like me going to Atlanta, this was the job that he wanted. So he got what he wanted. But I will say this: I personally know of about 3 or 4 schools that are still looking for someone in that role, because a couple of those schools have actually asked me to consult as far as helping them fill those roles. So if you're in sports information, if you're in marketing, if you're in communications, and you want to dive to this field, the opportunities are there. If you have the skill set or can quickly acquire the skill set, especially at the HBCU level, we need some help, y'all.
Yep, this is a big one. That's the end of the first quarter. In with South Carolina State Bulldogs leading the number 1 ranked North Carolina Central Eagles 10-0. As we get back to it, they have a coaching decision. They were 3rd and 5 at the 46. They got 4 yards, so it's 4th and 1 on the 50-yard line. Early in this game, do you go for it, Wilt?
Nah, I punt it.
AD Drew, you go for it or punt it?
I'm down 10-0. I'm gambling. I have not been able to slow down South Carolina State.
This will be interesting. Well, we'll get to see what he does when he comes back, but we'll be off the air. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside of HBCU Sports, part of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Staying in today was none other than Wilton Jackson II and AD Drew. I want to thank them for making sure we got the show and giving you information, particularly on such a big Thursday with obviously the game of the week. Some people would say the game of the week at this point, certainly the game of the MEAC. With that being said, again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. Standard Time, Sunday at 9. Based on the itinerary and flight, I'll give you an update whether I'm able to join on the show. But regardless, we'll try to give you a show on Sunday. I may be out of pocket, but we'll see what that looks like. Heck, we might have Wilton Jackson II leading. Let him lead off with his first edition of hosting the game on Sunday. We'll see if we can talk to him if you don't get too much trouble down there in Jackson. we may have to do the deal. We'll see what that looks like. But with that being said, follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter. I call it Twitter because I can. It's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at DRKENYATTACAVIL. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1, that is on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Just want to continue to do it. I'm here in Chicago at NAS, North American Society of Sports Sociologists. See if my friend will come pick me up, show me a little bit of Chicago before I have to get out of here in the morning. With that being, they decided to go for it,
and then they jumped off sides.
As they might have been faking. We'll see about that on Monday. We'll see, did he have the intention to go for it, or was he seeing if he played for it? They got it done. Actually, they call it offensive movement, so it's 4th and 6.
Okay.
A huge call. With that being said, dream big, continue to move forward. I thought we'd be off 80, Drew, but it looks like we snuck it in. We will talk with you soon. Wilton?
Of course.
80?
Lecture.
Professors are in the building. Dismissed.
Top light, everybody.